After the death of Jaehaerys Targaryen in 103 AC, his grandson Viserys succeeded as king and broke tradition to name his sole surviving child Rhaenyra heir to the Iron Throne. Yet this decision was undermined when the king's wife died, and he married young Alicent Hightower, who birthed 4 children, including 3 boys many would have preferred as successors. Though Viserys reaffirmed Rhaenyra's place as heir, a rivalry grew between the Blacks for the Targaryen princess and Greens for the Hightower queen, seeking to make her eldest son Aegon the next king. When Viserys died in 129 AC, the Greens usurped the Iron Throne, declaring Aegon king of Westeros, while on Dragonstone, the Blacks crowned Rhaenyra, beginning the Dance of the Dragon civil war. As the fighting intensified, the Blacks sought more dragon riders and so announced the Sowing of the Seeds event, promising land, riches, and knighthood to anyone who successfully bonded a dragon and fought for the queen. Despite the 16 dead and thrice as many wounded, the Blacks successfully recruited Hardhugh Hammer, the bastard son of a blacksmith who claimed Vermithor, the alcoholic former man-at-arms Ulf the White, also called Ulf the Sot, who mounted Vermithor's mate Silverwing, the supposed illegitimate child of Laenor Velaryon, Adam of Hull, who claimed sea smoke and was more likely sired by Corlys Velaryon, and Nettles, a 16-year-old dark-skinned girl who regularly brought an offering of mutton to Sheepstealer until he grew comfortable with her presence and accepted the bond. Throughout the war, the Blacks used diplomacy to ally with the North and Vale, but found the Riverlands divided, and so Daemon Targaryen, the husband of Rhaenyra, raised an army that won the territory in the First Riverlands campaign. Meanwhile, the Greens sent an army under the Lord Commander of the King's Guard and Hand of the King, Sir Criston Cole, to conquer much of the Crown Lands, before marching north to face the Blacks in the Riverlands, while the host of their ally, Lord Jason Lannister, came from the west to crush the enemy between them. Yet their plan failed, as the Lannister host faced multiple attacks until destroyed, while Cole's army reached Harrenhal in 130 AC, only to find it deserted, learning Daemon flew south to help Rhaenyra take King's Landing. Determined to join his strength to their allies in the Reach, Cole led his remaining 3,600 men south, only to face constant hit-and-run attacks that whittled down their forces, until surrounded during a final confrontation by a host of 6,000 rivermen and hundreds of winter wolves. As it would take time for the North to raise a large army for the Blacks, they sent a vanguard of 2,000 grizzled elders under Lord Roderick Dustin of Barrowton, following the northern custom of old men sacrificing their lives by leaving home during winter to preserve supplies for their families. Fully expecting to die, the only goal of the Winter Wolves was to end their days winning glory and plunder. Outnumbered 2-1, Criston Cole attempted to surrender but was refused and killed by bowmen before the Winter Wolves led the charge and crushed the remaining Greens in a battle so bloody and one-sided it was remembered as the Butcher's Ball. Victorious in the Riverlands, the Winter Wolves and Rivermen rode south to the prosperous trade town of Tumbleton to fight for the Blacks in the Reach. Over in the Reach, as House Hightower held significant regional power and even hosted the king's youngest brother Daeron and his dragon Tessarion, they naturally expected the territory to declare for the Greens, but instead found it fractured, with the houses Rowan, Tarly, Beesbury, Caswell, Costain, and others declaring for the Blacks, while House Tyrell of Highgarden remained neutral. Therefore, Lord Ormond Hightower, the cousin of Dowager Queen Alicent, led his army to fight their way through the Reach, in the hopes of joining their forces with the army of Criston Cole in the Riverlands. To counter the Hightowers, Black allied forces under Alan Tarly, Alan Beesbury, and Owen Costain used guerrilla tactics to raid the enemy until the Battle of the Honeywine, where the Greens faced an army attacking from the north under Lord Thaddeus Rowan and the Bastard of Bitterbridge, Tom Flowers, while the two Allans and Lord Costain marched from the south, cutting off retreat to Old Town. On the verge of total defeat, the Greens were saved by 15-year-old Daeron Targaryen upon Tessarion, as they turned the tide and defeated the Blacks, resulting in the death of Tom Flowers and Lord Costain and the capture of the two Allans. Though Lord Rowan escaped, the Greens won control over most of the territory, forcing the submission of houses Rowan, Oakhart, and the Shield Islands. Hailed as a hero, Prince Daeron the Daring was knighted by Lord Ormond Hightower with the Valyrian steel sword, Vigilance, after which they besieged Longtable, sacked Bitterbridge, and marched north toward the town of Tumbleton. With both the Greens and Blacks ready for another battle, the Queen-allied town of Tumbleton was defended by roughly 6,000 to 12,000 men, including the garrison of House Footley and the soldiers of House Caswell from Bitterbridge, House Merryweather of Longtable, the Blackwater supporters Mosslander of Yore, Sir Garrick Hall, Sir Merrill the Bold, Sir Roger Corn, Lord Owain Burney, and the Rivermen Sir Garibaldi Grey, Sir Pate of Longleaf who had the head of Criston Cole impaled on a spear, Red Rob Rivers, and the Winter Wolves of Lord Roderick Dustin. Even so, the Greens heavily outnumbered the Blacks, with warriors from the houses Hightower, Peake, and Roxton, in addition to various spies within Tumbleton, as well as Sir Roger Corn and Lord Owain Burney, who stood with the Queen's men but were secretly loyal to King Aegon. The Greens also had Prince Daeron and Tessarion, though the Blacks did not worry about this dragon rider, as Queen Rhaenyra sent Hughhammer on Vermithor and Ulf the White on Silverwing to help win the battle. To begin, Sir Garibaldi Grey led 6,000 men against Lord Ormond Hightower, but were cut down by archers and smashed by cavalry, and so retreated while the bowmen of Red Rob Rivers defended their withdrawal. Next, the Winter Wolves charged out a postern gate, and although outnumbered 10 to 1, carved through the Greens' left flank, allowing Roddy the Ruined to sacrifice his life to kill the enemy commanders, Lord Ormond Hightower and his cousin Brynden Hightower. With the enemy leaders dead, the Blacks simply needed the dragonseeds to eliminate Daeron and Tessarion, and victory would be assured. But their hopes were utterly crushed when Hughhammer and Ulf the White betrayed them to fight for the Greens, raining fire upon their former allies in what Grand Maester Munkin later called the Field of Fire writ small. In addition to the thousands who died by dragonfire, or drowned trying to escape through the Mander River, Sir Pate of Longleaf was trampled to death, and Sir Garibaldi the Grey was burned by Tessarion, while the traitors, Sir Roger Corn, opened the town gates to the Greens, and Lord Owain Burney stabbed Sir Merrill the Bold with a spear and opened the castle gate. The battle lost, Lord Footley's men surrendered, but were nonetheless bound and beheaded. In the aftermath of the battle, the town of Tumbleton was brutally sacked by the now leaderless Green Army, which killed every male they found, even young boys and old men, impaled babies on spears, and raped many females, including religious septas, silent sisters, elderly women, and girls as young as 8. Homes and shops were looted, while the wealthy were tortured to reveal their hidden treasures. Even the nobles participated in the chaos, with Lord Unwin Peake killing Lord Owain Burney during a war council dispute, while bold John Roxton killed Lord Footley and claimed his wife as a war prize. Hughhammer took the widow of a knight he killed, and Ulf the White supposedly raped 3 maidens each night, feeding those who displeased him to his dragon. Appalled by all he saw, Prince Daeron ordered the next most senior leader, Sir Hobart Hightower, to control their forces, but he was too weak and ineffectual to get it done. In the years that followed, the devastation wrought upon Tumbleton became so infamous that Archmaester Gildane wrote, "Seldom has any town or city in the history of the Seven Kingdoms been subject to as long or as cruel or as savage a sack as Tumbleton after the treasons." Yet despite this victory and the savagery of the Greens, they proved unable to capitalize on their success, as soldiers started deserting with their plunder, and the Dragonseed betrayers refused to move forward until their demands were met, with Ulf wanting to be Lord of Highgarden, while Hughhammer donned a crown of black iron proclaiming himself King of Westeros. Mired in a steadily worsening situation, the Greens started to turn on each other, and so were unprepared to face a counterattack by the Blacks during the Second Battle of Tumbleton later that year. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Warden of the X, Spectral Knight, Lord Commander of the Eternal Legion, Sir Loin, Werebear of the Great North, Sir Elendil of Numenor, and Javenya Targaryen. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can gain early access to videos and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.